This is the Dreamers Podcast, where dreamers share their stories to inspire you. Now, join host Joe Pardo as he interviews a dreamer who's living their dreams.
Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pardo, and today I am interviewing Nick Borrelli, who is living his dream through entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Nick.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Let's get started by giving some background about yourself.
Well, I guess I got started in business. My first real job was motorcycle salesperson for Harley Davidson. I was living in Florida at the time. Moved out there by myself when I was 20. Did it for probably a little over a year and ended up getting in a motorcycle accident and had to get flown home and back in with my parents. That's kind of how I ended up here and how I ended up to get into the marine business. From there, I just grew it over the past 6 or 7 years, however long it's been, into what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you do pretty well for yourself from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's still a young business, and I have more ideas than I have time, so it's kind of hard to pick the ones that I want to work on. And I am basically in business with my dad right now with all the New Wave Marine stuff, all the boating stuff. And then Mount Royal Enterprises is my own project for web design and marketing. And New Wave has about 5 projects within it, so it's kind of 6 little things going on. I'm trying to balance out and pick the ones that I like the most, that I feel are the most profitable, basically.
Yeah, it can be tough to balance out different things when you have so many ideas bouncing around and so many opportunities come your way, but not everyone is necessarily the right path for you to take. It's hard. How do you go about figuring that out?
It's really a lot of trial and error. I spend a lot of time. New Wave is my part of the business, at least, is all web-based with online sales, and I've tried probably almost 8 websites through New Wave, which most of them fail. Some of them take off. When one fails, I just move on to the next one, basically. And right now we have 3 of them live and an eBay store, and another new one's getting ready to launch. So it's just a matter of trial and error, really, just like any business.
Now, when you say websites, do you mean different designs or different names that it would go that you sell under?
It's really that I choose a small niche within the boating community of products. We started off on eBay with about 1,500 different items that were just random boating items and boating parts that we picked, and over 6 years kind of fine-tuned the listings, fine-tuned everything about them, and it just grew and grew. Then I decided that I didn't want to pay eBay 12% of my sales anymore, so I was going to start getting into websites, and I built my first website was for exhaust parts for boats. A lot smaller compared to eBay. It was about 99 parts instead of 1,500. And that started really slow. I had to teach myself basic web design. I had to teach myself Google marketing, SEO, and all that stuff. It took me about a year to even make it probably what I would call profitable. And then 2 years in, I had a pretty decent looking site up, and it was doing, probably $20,000 a month in sales. It was still, nothing, nowhere near where it should have been, but I, basically taught myself by watching YouTube videos on how to do it. And today, that website, that was my first one. Today, that site's doing about $70,000 a month in sales with only 99 items, which is my most successful site still if you compare the amount of sales to the amount of items. My second shot at a site was for lighting for boats, like underwater lighting, cockpit lighting, and that failed miserably. It took about 3 months of time and really hard work. I even had a guy hired helping me build products out. We had 300 products on the site, and the profit just wasn't there. Our competitors were killing us on them. So we scrapped that, moved on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and it just kind of goes on like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you can take a failure and learn something from it. I mean, really, every failure you should be able to learn something from, so you could take to the next project and make it better that, off of that failure.
Exactly. And that's why, I wouldn't even call it a failure. I'd consider it more of a learning experience. Like just the 3 months I spent building that LED lighting site, I tried things that I didn't try with my other sites. And if some of them would work, I would adapt it to the exhaust site, and it made that site better. If I needed to, write a short line of some kind of new code that I didn't know how to write, I went on YouTube probably and learned how to do it. And that's, 3 months. A real web designer could probably build a site in 2 weeks. It took me 3 months to do. But in that 3 months, I learned basically everything he went to college for. So
Yeah, it's amazing what we can learn with YouTube nowadays. I mean, pretty much anything you want to learn, it's right at your fingertips. Just search. You just got to know what to look for. And that sometimes that's the hardest part, to know what it's called. And sometimes even I know myself could take a day or two, or even up to a week, where I'll be sitting there thinking about something else, and all of a sudden it'll pop in my head like, oh, that's what I need to search for. That's what I couldn't think of.
I think that mindset is the key to doing what I do, to online marketing for e-commerce sales-based websites. Is the typical website goes and puts all their parts on the website and calls it a day and hopes people buy them, they market them. When I list my parts, when I make my websites, I sit back with every listing and say, when somebody is looking for this, what are they going to think it's called? Not what is it called. It might be called an exhaust manifold to me with a specific part number from the manufacturer, but I'll take the manifold and say, well, somebody might call it a header. Somebody might call it an intake manifold by accident. You never know. And you take those things into consideration when you're building the site and you're doing the SEO, and you can guide traffic for almost free compared to what pet competitors are paying for, because you're using keywords that nobody else uses. One example was marine trim pumps that I sell. They go for about $400 a piece. I pretty much doubled my sales on those by using a number that was stamped on them. It's not a part number, it's just a random number for some reason that's stamped on all of them. One of my customers came in saying he was looking for this part, and I said, I've never heard of that part number before. He showed me the pump, it said it on it. From that day on, I put them on my listings and doubled my sales.
It's always funny to me when I see things that have numbers on things and it has nothing to do with anything that you could search it by. And that right there is a great idea. The opposite of that would be put the part number of what it is on the part itself, instead of just random, it's not random to somebody, but random to us.
Yep.
So what does it mean to be an entrepreneur to you?
To me, it's about freedom. It's about not having to be underneath somebody and not having set hours to work. And, the ultimate goal for me is to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want to, whether that be because I have the money to do it or the time to do it. It's being an entrepreneur the ultimate goal is to free up both of those things, I think.
So what would you say inspires you?
Inspiration-wise, it's the ultimate inspiration is freedom. I mean, just not having to be in the office every day. I want to live my life. I want to travel the world. I want to know what it's like to, I guess the ultimate word is nirvana. I want that feeling of no wants or desires, because I can do whatever I want. So I'm just content with doing nothing at all. That's really like my life goal.
So how did your dream come about?
A lot of reading when I was younger. Just reading about different businesses, how people got started. I really looked up to people that were in the business world that were really successful back before Robert Kiyosaki was trying to sell everybody his books. Even Donald Trump, as much as I hate him now, he was a big inspiration for me. Just successful business people in general.
So how was your dream received by your family members?
It's funny. I think my family started off, basically growing up, we were really poor. My mom and dad had me really young. My dad was just starting his business, and we were, so close to losing our house, so close to everything. And I remember it all. I was probably 5 years old. Somehow I still remember it all. And my dad's a hustler. He started his business and never quit. And I think that mindset kind of came from him. He was always like that. My brothers, I have two brothers that are younger than me that have very similar mindsets that are kind of both breaking into the business world now. They're younger, they're 22 and 24. And we all look at life kind of the same way, where we don't want to just live a normal life, sit back, work our job, retire, and just have nothing to do. And we want to kind of experience everything the world can give you. It's actually really helpful to have my family kind of with the same mindset, and we're all kind of pushing each other all the time to do bigger and better things.
So what steps did you take to get started?
Well, getting started, like I said, I was in Florida and I got in an accident. I ended up back here in New Jersey, living with my mom, and I had like 3 broken bones and a messed up hip from the accident, so I didn't really have much of a way to work. But my dad had owned his boating business. He was a repair guy basically for boats, and he's had it for, at that time, probably already 20 years. So he's got piles upon piles of old used boat parts behind his shop, in the shop, all over the place. I went in and started putting them on eBay and see if I could sell them. And it just kind of took off from there. We sold tons of used boat parts. My dad had already been selling a little bit on eBay, but didn't really have the time because he was busy working on his customers' boats. We pretty much sold all the used stuff that he had and went on to start listing more and more new things on there. And, a few years in, we had 1,000 items on eBay, and they were all selling pretty well. And from there, we went on to building websites. Now we're going on to doing an Amazon store as well. And it just kind of keeps growing from there, basically.
So what roadblocks have you come across?
Oh, boy. Employees. It was hard to find people. It still is hard to find people to do something in this line of work with New Wave, because you need people that understand two things, boats and computers. And people that are really good with computers don't know anything about boats. And people that have boats, that work on their own boat, that understand boat parts, have no clue how to use a computer. So to find something in the middle of that, it's really challenging. Second challenge is really like scaling from something smaller to something bigger, to keeping track of your inventory. And when you sell on multiple platforms, like we have 3 websites and an eBay store that all might have the same item on them, to balance your inventory over those 3 areas is really tricky.
So how have you overcome those roadblocks?
Well, we went through about 3 shipping managers before we found, someone we liked. We got a really good guy now. He, works his butt off, and allows me to not have to worry about that, so I can focus more on other things. We do have interns in and out of here that do basic work, like work on the listings, and they're not really boat people, not really computer people, but people that can kind of do a list of things that I hand them, that kind of gets a little bit of work off my back. As far as the inventory and all that fun stuff, that's still really a challenge. Kind of the team here, between me and my shipping guy and everybody else here, my dad even, we just watch carefully and just keep it as up to date as possible. We still, at this point, run into every once in a while overselling something or pricing not being updated, and we just update it when we can. And sometimes it's a little lost, but it's not that big of a deal compared to the big picture. Right now, I'm working with a software company to develop a software that automates it all, that basically builds a bridge from my website to all of my suppliers, that will adjust pricing and inventory based on their files on a daily basis. That's kind of been like a year in the works, and it's starting to make some good headway, but it's a lot of work. And once that's done, it could really be the next level for us, I think.
That kind of programming can be very expensive.
It's hard to find a good, trustworthy programmer. We've been through probably 4 or 5 of them that we've tried and failed, and I'm kind of getting better at trying new people, to the point where I'm not willing to pay anybody unless they make it work. So the company I'm working with now is, I'll pay them good money, but not till it's working. I'm pretty confident these guys are going to do the trick. It's a really fancy system.
Yeah, I've explained to people before that, just because you have an idea and you don't know how to program it, and somebody tells you, oh, I'll do it for $2,000, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be $2,000, because they know that once you're in $2,000 that you're going to be willing to spend more money because you're already in it. You're in it to win it at that point. You're probably a year or 2 into development, so you're not going to go to anybody else, and they got you.
Yep. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's a shame. It really is a shame. I mean, the best way to that I've explained to people is really with anything, is just jump in and do it yourself. I mean, if you don't know how to program, there's tons of books out there. There's tons of YouTube videos. There's plenty of ways to find out, and there's plenty of support groups to find out. But I mean, depending on, like in your case, those kinds of where it's not talking about an app, you really kind of have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, this is the level of programming that I'm doing for the software for the back end of the business here is well beyond what I'm capable of doing. I can build a website, I can build a simple app, but this is some pretty serious stuff. But even through my trials with other companies and other programmers, I've learned enough and taught myself things. So now that I understand what to tell them to do, at least, I understand what they're going to do. I just would not be able to do it myself without doing it full time for probably years. And they have a full team of people. So
yeah, you definitely need a lot of people to make, the bigger the dream, the more people you need to
Yep.
make that happen, especially when it comes to programming. So is there any parts of your dream that haven't quite worked out yet?
Well, I was hoping to be a multimillionaire by the time I was 25, but 27 now and still working on it. So other than that, I can't complain. I'm still at this point in the business in my office almost every day, a lot of hours, fine tuning things and trying to make them work. So it's not, I'm very far from my goal still, but I don't think there's been any major roadblocks that weren't just, good learning experiences.
So do you have a favorite memory from all your entrepreneurship?
It's hard to say. It's always a good memory when you break your monthly sales record or something. But at this point, we keep doing it every month. So I just like to think back to, before I started doing this, before I was doing really well. I remember things like just looking at people that were successful and saying, man, I couldn't even imagine being to that point. And now I'm kind of like beyond that point. Now I look up to people even farther down the road. And I just think it's probably a never ending ladder of success, but it's cool to see that, to look back and remember where you were 5 years ago and say, well, if this where I am now seemed impossible then, and I can look at a guy like Elon Musk with Tesla Motors and his other really successful companies and say, well, that might seem crazy now, but 5 years from now it might not, So that's kind of what keeps me going.
It's funny how that cycle never even comes to an end, because once you get to that point of a Bill Gates or even lesser than a Bill Gates, the cycle starts over, because now it's a race to donate as much money as you possibly can to be successful.
Exactly. There's always something, and it's I have friends and with families that are way more successful than me that I look up to, and you could have a conversation with them, and they talk about other people the way you think of them, and it's just amazing to see that. That's just like, if you base your happiness upon how successful you are, you're never going to get there, because it's not something that has an end, really, I don't think.
So you kind of touched on it, but let's go deeper into what your dreams for the future look like.
Well, with New Wave Marine, with the websites and all that I'm building, the goal is to really make it automated, to automate pricing, automate inventory, automate drop shipping, and have a good crew here running it. Once I get that really down, I really want to focus more on my marketing company, Mount Royal Enterprises. I don't have a lot of time for that right now. I kind of do, one or two projects a month with that right now for smaller businesses, local businesses. A lot of my friends that have businesses, I help them out, and do it for half the price that a major marketing company would do. And it's the same stuff that I'm doing here for my business, New Wave. I learned it by doing it, which is a big advantage over somebody that learned it by just going to school for it. I implemented it, but overall, it's hard to say for the future. My plans with these two businesses is to grow them as big as I can, make them successful, and who knows where I could go from there. I would love to try new things, try new businesses, and meet new people. That's what's fun for me. So
yeah, I can attest to meeting new people as being very fun. It's part of one of the perks of doing this show. So do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, just think for anybody that's looking to start their own business with like an entrepreneurial mindset, just realize that the beginning is the hardest part. If you can get past that, it's a lot of fun, and it's not all about making money. It's about being able to do what you want to do with your life and enjoying kind of the journey, the growth. It's like a kid. It's like your child. You're watching it grow, and no matter what it does, you're kind of happy and you learn from it, and you just got to keep pushing to make it bigger and better.
Very well put. Would you like to share your Facebook, websites, Twitters?
Well, I've got a whole lot of them. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Nick.Borrelli, BORRELLI.14. NewWaveMarine.com, NUWAVE Marine.com is the kind of mother site for New Wave. All the little sites and web sales sites are linked from that site. And my marketing and web design site is Mount Royal Enterprises, MTRoyalEnterprises.com. Definitely looking forward to meeting some new business owners. So if you need help with anything marketing-wise, definitely contact me.
Well, I'll have them all in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on the show, Nick. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Joe. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. And I hope to have you on the show again in another 6 months or a year, and we'll catch up on how you've been.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co.